Welcome back to the Big Leagues podcast. David and Isaac back again. The NBA season's coming to a close here. Only a couple of games left. We wanted to give some awards out and some All NBA picks. New rules this year. Gotta meet the minimum game requirement of 65 games. Nobody too crazy left off. Embiid being the big one. He had that big injury. Only played 35 games. Like Jimmy Butler, a couple other guys on the bubble there. Let's jump right into the MVP. Isaac, who would you give the MVP to?
I mean, by the odds, it doesn't look like it's going to go to him, but he was actually my preseason pick, and I'm going to stick with him. I think it's Luka Doncic. I mean, to me, it's honestly wild how he's not the runaway favorite. I mean, it's kind of no one's really pulled away, but according to the odds, it's going to be Jokic for his third MVP. But just what Luka's been doing, carrying this Mavs team, and the man's already averaging 34, 10, and 9, and he's just kind of having like one of the best seasons we've seen in a while, and he's just not really getting the credit that he deserves. So I guess it's a bold take, but I think Luka should be the MVP. I don't know what you're thinking here.
Yeah. Like looking at the odds, Jokic is the front runner at minus 1200. Luka coming in at plus 550. I'd agree with you, man. I got it to Luka all day. I mean, like, I get it for a lot of people. They look at like the team success a lot, which I understand to a degree. I do, but like, I feel like you don't just give it to the best player on the best team every year. Like, you got to factor in some other variables here. Um, the Mavericks are 8th place in the league. Like, no, they're not a top 3 seed, but they're the 5th seed in the West, 8th seed overall, and Luka's putting up godly numbers. Like, I just feel like, what more could you ask the man to do?
And like, if you look at the two rosters between the Nuggets and like, if you put Luka on the Nuggets, or like Luka's roster besides Kyrie Irving, and they did make a few good acquisitions at the deadline, getting Washington and Gafford, but it's nothing like, it's not a good roster. Like, if you take Luka off that roster, they're in the basement of the league.
Yeah.
And he's just doing every night 40-point triple double, like he's dropping 50. Like, he makes it look so effortless, man. And I just don't know, just the bias. It's always just you got to be like a top 3 seed, except for like the Russell Westbrook year. They kind of stick to that criteria, but I don't agree with it, because I just think to his team, he's the definition of the most valuable player, in my opinion.
I mean, yeah, like you said, like, just looking at his stats are just so insane. Like, like 35, 10, and 9, basically. Like, what more do you like? What you average a 40-point triple double? Like, then would you give him MVP? Like, what would it take? That's just what I don't understand. To me, I think he's the MVP. I mean, Jokic is having a good year, but he's not having like a phenomenal year by Jokic standards. Like, he's just, I mean, I think he's the best player in the NBA, but he's not putting up numbers that we haven't seen before. And he won the last 2 in a row, didn't he?
Well, he won the 2 before Embiid, but they were like really.
Oh, right. Embiid won last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we already talking about kind of Jokic so he was second.
My second too.
My third was SGA.
Yeah. Me too.
Like, honestly, I'd think about giving, like, if let's say Luka wasn't in the conversation, I'd think about giving it to SGA, man. Like, I think like their rosters, somewhat, like, it's still a young core. He's been leading them. He's averaging, 31 points a game, 5 and 5, and he kind of does everything for the Thunder, facilitates, and the roster isn't really that stacked. Like, Chet's still basically a rookie, and Jalen Williams only in his second year as well. So kind of all their core players are young guys, but he's still leading to a top seed in a loaded Western Conference. So I think you got to give respect where it's due there to SGA. So I wouldn't even be mad if they gave him the MVP, like, honestly, over Luka and Jokic as well. Yeah, I think he's having that good of a year.
Yeah, I definitely think he's like putting up an MVP caliber season. Like you said, 35 and 6 on a 3 seed. Like, that meets the criteria as past years. I would also agree with him third. Giannis is also having a big time season. He'd probably be fourth for me, but just misses out on the ballot there.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on MVP before we move on?
No. Are we going to defensive player next?
Yeah, we'll go to defensive player of the year.
You lead.
I'll just do a quick So the odds on this one have Rudy Gobert at minus 4,000, Wembanyama plus 1,400, AD plus 20,000, Bam, Derek White, and Jarrett Allen also at plus 20,000. Who is your front runner for D-Boy?
My front runner is the odds would agree Gobert. I mean, I just kind of been seeing like he's the runaway favorite, and the Timberwolves have. I know they had the top defense at one point. I'm not sure if they still do, but like a top defensive unit. And that's kind of why they're at the top of the Western Conference. Like last year, they were barely a play-in team, and now kind of Gobert stepped his play up, and now they're top. And I think kind of just their defense and the way he just protects the rims just so valuable. But honestly, like I think Wembanyama and AD should I don't think it should be as egregious as it is. But to be fair, the Spurs are last place in the league and not doing too well. But AD's leading a pretty good defense for the Lakers, and Bam's doing the same for the Heat. So I think it should be closer than it is, but I'd give it to Gobert for my number one.
Yeah, I mean, Gobert is definitely deserving. I don't want to take that away from him, but to me, I think if I had a vote, I think I'd go Wembanyama, baby.
Yeah.
Averaging 3.5 blocks per game, more than a full block per game, more than the next guy, which is pretty insane. That also puts him at 40th in all time for a season blocks per game, and he's had some crazy games with 10 blocks, 9 blocks. I mean, I was looking it up. 10 blocks in a game's only been done 122 times by I think it was 31 different people. So, I mean, just the way coming in as a rookie, already being a legendary shot blocker is just crazy. I mean, if he stays on the court for the rest of his career, he's going to be one of the greatest shot blockers of all time. I think pretty undebatably.
Well,
I mean, yeah, they're the worst team in the league, but I don't know if that can be pinned all on him. And for an award like Defensive Player of the Year, I don't are we really gonna look at records for that? I don't think that's really fair.
Well, I'm not sure really how the Spurs defense would rank, but I just kind of think that how the Timberwolves are a top defense and the Spurs are kind of middle of the pack or whatever. I mean, the Spurs are obviously garbage, and that doesn't help that they don't score a lot, so the other team will have more possessions. But it's crazy what Embiid's doing especially as a rookie. Doesn't really get talked about as much. I also had him as my, or I guess you had him as number one. I had him as my number two there, but it shouldn't be plus 1,500 or whatever he is.
Oh, I don't think I mean, I just want to quickly rebuttal on your point about the Timberwolves having the better D. I think that is a valid metric that gets considered, but at the same time, it is an individual award. And you look at the Timberwolves, they got Jaden McDaniels, who's a great defender. They got Anthony Edwards, who's a plus defender. They got lots of good defenders. And then Spurs, maybe not so much. So I just think that for me, it just comes down to the fact that he's averaging a full block per game more than anyone else. Just pretty insane. So yeah. I also had Rudy at 2.
Rudy at 2.
I had AD at 3.
I also had AD at 3.
Surprised you didn't have AD at 1.
Yeah.
Big Lakers bandwagoner over here.
I mean, I honestly feel like AD, he was playing really good. I feel like middle of the season, he kind of slowed down a little bit. At least his rim protection numbers went down. His blocks went down a little bit. Because he was averaging 3 at the time of the in-season tournament, and he was playing crazy. But recently, he's kind of picked it back up. So I had him at 3rd just because even though I love riding the Lakers meet, I just Gobert and Wembanyama have been playing crazy good for me.
Yeah. Moving on to the Rookie of the Year. Oh, they don't even have odds for it. Wembanyama's that much of a runaway.
Yeah, I don't think.
Which is crazy because people were giving it to Chet halfway through the year. It was a big debate, Wemby versus Chet, and now they don't even offer you odds. So
yeah,
wow, that's crazy.
I think he just kind of over the last 2 months has kind of just put it to bed, and just he's been playing so good and took his game kind of to another level. And Chet's played any other year. Chet would probably win, but he just had to go with Wembanyama.
I mean, yeah, Wembanyama averaging 20, 10, and 4 with 3.5 blocks, and then Chet averaging 17, 8, and 3. Yeah, I didn't understand even when people were giving it to Chet over him. To me, I didn't quite understand that. Like, yeah, the Thunder have a better record, but like, how does that make sense when Chet got injured last year, so he wasn't like eligible, and then Wembanyama's team had the first overall pick, so like, no shit, they suck, and they happen to have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who we just put as a top 3
Yeah.
MVP candidate, and not to mention all the other guys they got. So like, I don't really think that should be taken into too much consideration, especially like the way Wemby was playing. So uh
So
I think
you,
he's your second, right, Chet?
yeah.
Who do you have at
I
third?
had Brandon Miller at third.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's kind of really no one else like Scoot. I wouldn't. I don't think you could justify putting Scoot over Brandon Miller, and Jaime Hawk has fallen off a little bit of a cliff. My Houston boys though, like if they were healthy, like I'm really liking Whitmore and then Thompson. They've been playing really good.
Yeah. I mean, not quite up for like the
Yeah,
award or anything, but definitely a promising future for the Rockets.
like I could see. I think they both should be on all rookie teams probably. Maybe not
Yeah, I
Whitmore
would
because
say.
Whitmore only played like 40 games this year because he's been hurt. So probably not him, but Amen definitely should be on there somewhere. So I'd say.
Which one would do you think has the higher ceiling?
I'd say Whitmore. Like he's like a natural. You can tell he's a real natural scorer, but Amen just does everything so well, except his jump shot. Like he does everything like really good. Like he's an elite defender, elite rebounder, high basketball IQ. Like I think Amen's got like a really safe floor. Like, and if he can develop his jump shot, then who knows? Who knows what he'll do, right?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely big on both those guys, and Sengun took a big leap to be like
Yeah,
a star player this year. Not quite meeting the 65 game requirements for awards, but
yeah,
and Jalen Green took a big step too. Um,
yeah.
so honestly, if Sengun did play those 65 games, he'd probably be up for this next award, most improved
Yeah.
player. This is a decently close award. The books have Tyrese Maxey as the favorite at minus 200, Kobe White plus 150, Jalen Williams plus 3,000, Jonathan Kuminga plus 20,000. Who would you give this award to?
Well, I'm gonna give it to Tyrese Maxey, but like we're kind of just saying, if Sengun just played 2 more games, I would be getting it to him, man. I
Yeah,
think because Maxey was already a 20-point
20.
scorer last year, I
Yeah,
believe.
up to
So
25 now, kind of taking on more of a star
yeah,
role.
like with James Harden leaving, his role just kind of got more increased and higher usage, just getting the ball a lot more. So, but he's played, really well, and you can't take that from him. But I believe he's averaging like 25 points per game, and
Yeah,
um, the next kind of two guys I have aren't even averaging 20. So I think it should be Maxey. Just he's kept the Sixers team afloat while Embiid's been down too. So, just I think just the role he's taken on this year and kind of his improvement, I think he deserves the award personally.
yeah. I also would give him the award. Um, I like the idea of this award, kind of giving some shout out to someone that took like a big leap and improved their game a lot. But I just hate like the way it gets voted on and how there's no like distinct criteria and everyone just kind of like makes up their own criteria. I don't know. It just kind of I don't really like it that much. Like you
Yeah.
got a guy like Tyrese Maxey who kind of took a jump from being like a really good player to almost like a star, but he averaged 5 more points. Where like my runner-up Kobe White took a jump of like 10 more points and took like a really big leap,
Yeah.
but he didn't take that leap into like a superstar player. Like so, I don't know. It is kind of tough there.
Well,
Who's
it's
your
tough.
second?
I had Kaminga as my second, but I had Kobe White as my third. I'll just say that, but I think what you're saying is completely valid because I think Kobe White improved way more than Maxey did. But I just think Maxey's numbers are so good, and that's kind of what they give this award to, kind of who improved like the hot, like they kind of give a bias to the better
Yeah.
player who like improved, like kind of like when Siakam and Jimmy Butler won it. Like there's kind of a trend like that. But Kobe White went
John
from
Morant, like when he won it, it was like John
yeah,
Morant. He was picked like second overall
yeah,
like 2 years
no,
ago.
that was wild.
He's already nasty, and now he's like a superstar. Is he really like most improved?
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily fair. Like I find the award doesn't really account for like natural development of prospects.
Well, like, because Kobe White was barely a rotation player, like, kind of the
Yeah,
last, like he was better to be out of Chicago like for like not much, and he just kind of turned into a very solid starting point guard for the Bulls. And I think it's.
You know what? I think I'm changing my pick. I think I'm going Kobe White.
You're going Kobe White.
Like Maxey he's a pretty like young player. He was already averaging 20. He was good, and then they opened up a big role for him for Harden. So yeah, he is gonna take a leap in that. Whereas Kobe White, man, jumping 10 points per game is a pretty difficult feat. So
yeah,
I think I'm gonna change my pick to have Kobe White at 1, Maxey at 2. For me, I got Jalen Williams at 3. I've also been really impressed with him this year. Great two-way player. Like I could see him being one of the best like two-way players in the league here for the next few years. I mean, kind of reminds me a little bit of, has some like shades of Kawhi Leonard in terms of his development.
Well, I think like Jalen Williams had a very good rookie year as well.
Yeah.
And I think Kuminga kind of last year wasn't like really in the rotation like in the playoffs, and this year kind of Wiggins took a step down and Kuminga just jumped up right into that role and's been playing. Honestly, been Golden State's second best player all year. So that's kind of why I had him in the 2 hole there. I just think like I think it's always great to have really versatile wings that are good defenders and can shoot the 3 ball, and he's kind of just morphing into that Wiggins role that when they won the championship.
Yeah, I suppose that is fair. Like, I guess Kuminga's was he a rookie last year?
No, I think he was a sophomore last year, rookie the year before.
Yeah. Okay, and I guess we'll also do 6th man of the year. For me, I actually the odds on this one, Malik Monk is the favorite, -140. Naz Reid +100. Norman Powell +1200. And then a couple long shots. Bobby Portis +5,000. Bogdanovich +10,000. Caris LeVert +10,000. For me, I got this award going to Malik Monk. I think he's just like the perfect, kind of fits that role of the like standard 6-man coming off the bench, giving you some buckets, can like start when you need him to. Kings are like a good team. Monk averaging 15, 3 and 5, having a good season. Who's your pick?
I also had Monk. I mean, man's like dropped 40 points multiple times, like giving you clutch buckets, kind of just giving you like exactly what you said, like the typical 6-man Lou Will off the bench, just giving you, a good combination of scoring. And he also is a very good defender as well. So I just think he's kind of giving you the perfect first guy off the bench kind of role. So that's why I gave it to him. But I had I think Naz Reid is a close second for what he's been doing with the Timberwolves. Like they kind of like to run 2 bigs with Cat and Gobert, but he'll just bump in for one of them and they'll keep the 2 bigs, and he can stretch the floor. Like he's good on the interior. He's good scoring on the interior. So I think Naz Reid took a big leap this year too. So I had him second for 6-man.
Yeah. For me, I had Norman Powell second. I mean, could be a little disrespectful to Naz Reid. Like I like Naz Reid, good player. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like there is kind of like I just feel like Norman Powell. I don't know. It doesn't necessarily always have to be like a scoring shooting guard that gets 6-man, but I just think Norman Powell like does a lot for that Clippers team, averaging 14 points. Just comes in as a spark plug, gets you some buckets, shoots the ball well, and he can kind of step up when guys like Kawhi and Paul George and Harden aren't playing.
Yeah.
I had Naz Reid third though. He's a beast, man. Like coming in as like your 3rd best big man.
Yeah. I know I actually had Bobby Portis third over Norman Powell. I mean,
I don't hate it.
I mean, Norman Powell, like he's kind of been doing this role for like a few years now, been a really good 6-man for the Clippers, but I've always just liked what Bobby Portis brings to the Bucks. I mean, I'm a big fan of the big men that can stretch the floor and like shoot 3 at a clip, and he's been right around 40% from 3 since he's got to the Bucks, and he's also really lengthy, plays really good defense. I
brings a lot of energy too. Big energy guy.
It's like kind of the perfect guy to be off the bench. Like he can also start at the 5 when Brook Lopez is hurt, and like just a really good floor spacer for Giannis. I think it's kind of just a perfect fit there, and I think he's played pretty well this year too. But no disrespect to Norman Powell, he's played great as well.
Yeah, no, that's a good pick. Portis averaging 13 points, 7 rebounds this year. He's another guy too that like he can give you big games sometimes too, and he can put up like some like pretty high scoring numbers for.
Surprise when he drops 30 off the bench.
He was my preseason pick for six-man too, but not quite hitting the ballot for me. I think that's all the awards we're really gonna do, like the coach of the year, who that's not really that fun to pick, and clutch player of the year. Like I don't really know how you're gonna pick that one. That's basically just looking at deep dive and analytics and stuff. It's a cool award though.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like De'Aaron Fox is like kind of.
I think
his staff actually.
Yeah, the favorite for it right now is DeRozan actually.
Oh, really?
Him and Curry are pretty close.
I guess I haven't looked at it in a while, but because I thought it was like Steph, LeBron, and De'Aaron Fox are kind of like halfway through the season.
Okay.
I guess we'll move on to our All NBA teams. Do we want to start with the first team or third team?
What do you think?
I say start with third team. I that's how they announce it, right?
Yeah. We'll make it interesting. We'll start with the third team.
So they made a change this year that you don't have to go to the traditional kind of 2 guards and 3 front court guys. With my third team, I think me and you both tried to kind of keep it old way.
Pretty similar to the old way, like not being super picky on it, but I'm trying to stick to like 2 guards and 3 front courts for the most part.
I guess I'll start. Do we just want to go one player or give the full team?
Give the full team for the third team at least.
So for my third team, I have De'Aaron Fox and Devin Booker as my guards.
Okay.
I have Kawhi Leonard, Zion Williamson, and Kevin Durant.
Interesting. Okay.
Wow,
there's a bit of differences here. I also have De'Aaron Fox on my third team. Booker hasn't quite hit the 65 games yet, but I think he probably should by the end of the season. I threw in Anthony Edwards on my third team. I got LeBron James on my third team.
Yeah.
I also have Zion on my third team. And, I mean, don't have to pick a center, but for my center, I threw Victor Wembanyama on my third team, to be honest. Could be a bit crazy, but I don't know. I felt like he was deserving, like, of having a defensive player of the year type season, averaging 20 points, like putting up big boards.
I mean, I don't hate it, but I just kind of had 15 guys that I just had 9 front court guys that I'd give it to before him. But I mean, what he's doing for the Spurs, like we already glazed him enough earlier, but he's just crazy good. So I definitely don't have a problem with that pick.
The one thing, I mean, we did talk about this, but all NBA, I do like team success. I feel like should play a little bit of a factor. I mean, it's not the be all end all, but it should be a variable. So that could be one reason why not. I could be being a little bit biased here, but decided to throw him the nod.
So yours was Fox, Zion, Braun, Wembanyama, and who?
And Anthony Edwards.
That's okay.
Move on to the second teams. Yeah. Start us off again, mate.
So for my guards, I have Jalen Brunson and Steph Curry.
I got both of them too.
I have Jason Tatum, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis.
Okay. Really interested to see. I'm not too sure who's on your first team here, to be honest. Like I said, I got Curry and Brunson. I got Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, and I also have Anthony Davis.
Okay.
So second team's looking pretty even here.
Except you just got to disrespect my king and put him on the third team over KD and
to me, it came down to him versus Kawhi. LeBron, I want to say is averaging like 25, 7, something like that.
Yeah.
And Kawhi was averaging like 23, 5, and 4, something like that.
Yeah.
A little bit less on the rebounding and the passing, which has come to be expected. For me, it just came down to Kawhi being a much better defender and Clippers having a bit better record. And to be honest, probably a little biased.
I think, honestly, the reason why I had him also over KD is I think, LeBron's been scoring really efficient this year. Like, he's 41% from 3, 54% from the field. And, kind of just, a little more facilitation with 8 assists than Kevin Durant. So that's kind of and obviously he's my hubba bubba.
To be honest, I do give you a lot of shit about overrating LeBron. Like, that's probably one of our biggest points of contention amongst our sports debates. But I can't follow you for putting him on the second team.
Yeah.
Moving on to, are you ready for the first team? I'm saying let's go one by one here.
Okay. So first card, I got the MVP, Luka.
Yeah, I got Luka too. Not much that needs to be said. We already glazed him enough too.
MVP candidate, SGA.
Yep.
I want to leave my small forward for last. So let's go center, Jokic.
Yeah.
Power forward, Giannis.
Yeah.
So you got Tatum.
I got Tatum.
I have a man who was on your third team. I got Anthony Edwards.
Okay. Wow.
I mean, I'm definitely a Tatum hater, so there's probably a little bias that I wanted to discredit him a little, but I think Ants, we already talked about the T-Wolves, how they're a top, like no one kind of had them as a top 3 seed, and especially in a really tough West. And I just think the Celtics are so stacked. Like I'm not, overly impressed about Tatum. Like I don't think he's that much better than he was last year, but obviously he's really good. And I had him on the second team, but I just think what Ant does for the Wolves is more than what Tatum does for the Celtics. So that's kind of why I made that pick right there.
Yeah. The way the lists were shaken out, I was trying to think like, who does he have on first team here? And I couldn't quite come up with it, but Anthony Edwards, I think that is a pretty valid take, to be honest. Averaging 26, 5 and 5 about. And like you said, he's the best player on the Wolves, who are a top seed. So can't go wrong there. You had Tatum on second team, did you?
Yeah, I had Tatum and LeBron and AD for my second team front court.
Okay. I guess that's not egregious, but I think Tatum averaging 27, 8 and 5. I think he really should get the nod over Ant. But it is what it is. I'm not gonna come at you too much for that.
Did we? I think our only difference, I had D Book and you had Victor.
Pretty much, yeah. Wow, that's pretty impressive. I was expecting a bit more, some crazier takes.
I mean,
any honorable mentions that you debated putting in on one of the teams that didn't quite make it?
I wanted to give Halliburton kind of maybe a 13 guard, but since kind of his injury and he's been playing like less minutes, like his numbers just haven't really been as good. And Bam, someone who I considered over like someone like Zion for my third team kind of front court. I don't think Paul George is gonna get there for game. I'm not sure he's gonna get there for games, but him and honestly Harden, I'd have I think like their names should be around the bubble. And
Paul George actually got 69 games, so he's there, averaging about 23, 5 and 4 this year. So still good, but
that's why I feel like what Zion. I mean, if this 2 months ago, I wouldn't have Zion, but just what he's been doing of late,
he's been good as of late. And if Clippers already have Kawhi, Pelicans 6 seed, I feel like they should have someone. So to give them Zion's good.
And
you go ahead.
I was just gonna glaze on a little, saying like how well he's been playing recently, and kind of making the Pelicans look like a scary team to play for one of the top West teams.
Definitely. One name that I wanted to give some love that I kind of debated between him and Zion actually is Paolo Banchero. Magic have been a really sneaky team this year. I thought they could maybe get into the play-in, which was kind of ambitious at the time, and here they are, the 4 seed in the East right now. And Paolo's averaging 22, 7 and 5. So only in his second year. I mean, not a guy that really gets talked about as much as he should, for someone that went first overall in his second year, carrying his team to a 4 seed.
Yeah.
Doesn't really get much media attention.
Well, it's just kind of the Magic. No one really follows Magic too much, but he's honestly taken, last year his efficiency wasn't, that great, but he stepped it up, and he's been playing better on the defensive end too, and kind of getting the Magic some relevancy here. So I wouldn't hate that at all. I think he definitely deserves his flowers.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on all NBA awards?
None that really come to mind. Do we maybe want to give a finals matchup?
Yeah. That's what I was getting to. We'll probably do a video on that, once I'm making a bracket and stuff. But why don't you give me your? Do you want to spoil it and give our finals teams, or?
I might as well. Things could change when maybe someone gets hurt. Maybe they got a tough matchup. I'd say we give our finals predictions.
We'll give our lean. We'll see. Subject to change. So give me your East team.
I'm gonna go Celtics, I think. I mean, it's them or the Bucks for me, and I just it hasn't seemed to click as well for Dame and Giannis as I thought, kind of preseason. But I mean, the Celtics just look scary. Like they just got 5 All-Stars, and
Yeah, they got a nasty team.
Joe Mazzulla, I don't believe in him too much, so maybe he could cost them. And I mean, their bench isn't, I wouldn't say the best unit in the league, but it's definitely doesn't hold them down. And just their starting lineup mixes, it's I think just scary for every team in the East.
Yeah, I would. I mean, not to don't want to spoil it too much. I'll give a deeper breakdown, but I think I would have to go Celtics too if you put a gun to my head. Basically for all the reasons you mentioned. Moving on to our West team, we're gonna be looking into the play-in for this one.
I know, it's gonna seem outrageous, but listen, the last year the Lakers, they were the second best team in the West. That
is true.
They beat the Warriors. They went to the conference finals. Beat a good Grizzlies team in the first, beat the defending champs Warriors in the second, and even though they got swept, every single game was close. A few bounces the ways, maybe that's series going to 7 or, and I just think the way D'Angelo Russell and Rui Hachimura have kind of raised their play. If the supporting cast can shoot a little better from 3, and I don't know. I like the Lakers, man. I think they're good, but if I had to give a non, I guess, biased pick, I'd go Clippers. I like the Clippers as well. I like the Clippers. I think Kawhi always turns it on the postseason. And I think just having 2 elite lockdown forwards and Paul George and Kawhi is just something really valuable. And Harden's been bringing kind of a new level to the offense that they didn't really have. So I like the Clippers, man. Clippers, it's going to LA. An LA team's going to the finals.
Yeah. Hate to give the boring pick, but I think I gotta go Nuggets, man. They're just a juggernaut. Yeah, you guys don't need to hear me yap about the Nuggets. You know what the Nuggets bring to the table.
Anyone but the Nuggets, I'll be happy.
Yeah. I mean, pretty boring picks by me there. Pretty chalk picks, Celtics, Nuggets, but I just think they're the 2 best teams. I'd be a little surprised, but hey, there's a lot of good teams. I think this is a pretty good year for NBA. There's lots of teams that could win it. Just not always the case. So I'll be excited for the playoffs. We'll be doing a bracket breakdown here soon. Big time for sports, man. We got NBA playoffs right around the corner, NHL playoffs right around the corner, UFC 300, Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia, Canelo's fight's coming, Fury Usyk, just a loaded time. WrestleMania, yeah. Yeah, won't be tuning into that, but yeah, we'll be back with some more videos, so make sure to hit subscribe, like the video, and come check out another one for another big event.
Yes, sir.